Okay, sounds like to me.
Everybody, welcome to our July 1st meeting. We do not have a quorum, but we do not have any votes plans. We're gonna proceed with sharing information and discussion. And for this meeting for our other members in the public for posterity. Okay, so we are calling to order at 6:10 p.m. We do not have any members of the public, so we can skip over the public comment on agenda items. I wanted to share a couple of updates on our 2024 work planning. We're more than halfway through this year, so it's helpful to touch base. Pull up our.
I'm trying to see our
notes.
Yeah, trying to get to the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also happy to pull it up if that helps and put it on the screen. Here, why don't I pull it up on the screen and I'll do a.
Well, if we put it in, 20 point font, that would probably work.
I can do that.
Funny, very funny. And I know it's just
Okay,
right here.
so
Because
let
I
me
opened it.
share. The screen.
Ah.
Okay. And let me zoom that in for Terry as well.
Here we are.
Okay, does that work for you, Terry? You can see it?
Actually, I can't, thank you.
Good.
You know that all the other times I was having to do it.
Oh, no, okay, well, I'll note that for the future.
That's lovely, thank you.
Okay. So, for work planning, well, I'll go jump around a little bit in the agenda.
Yeah.
As mentioned by email, the town of Wiscasset has received the community action grant that we applied for $50,000, so.
Oh, that, I mean, really,
To all of us, and it was a lot of hard work.
we need a party.
That would be great.
No, that was really well done. I mean, I'm proud of it.
So as a reminder, not that any of you need a reminding, but that is focused on waterfront climate resilience. And we propose to do a community-driven resilience project over the next 2 years. And so what that means is that we'll be doing a lot of community engagement on understanding Wiscasset resident priorities for our waterfront, what kind of future we want to see for the waterfront with climate change, increased flooding, erosion, storm surge, and so on. And so that is really helpful. I'm working really closely with town staff right now on getting the Community Resilience Partnership and the governor's office some additional information that they've requested so that we can actually pull the contract together and receive those grant funds. You may recall that we had originally applied for 2 different grant programs. The other being the Maine Coastal Planning Grant and Shore and Harbors Grant. We did not receive that grant, so we still have a shortfall of at least 50,000 that we need to help the town find additional funding for. And so I will be working closely with Erin, our economic development director, on trying to find additional grant funds to probably prioritize for the second year so that we can make sure there's enough funds for getting the engineering designs and everything. But we do have enough to get started for this next 12 months.
As in select board comes up with some money.
Unless the select board, yeah, but the select board has not indicated a desire to spend town funds yet on climate resilience plan.
And, yeah, but, you know, Dennis is also using up the last of the. Not the resilience funds, what are the COVID funds.
Oh, the American Rescue Plan.
And so we could have probably had some of that, I keep watching it and thinking, free money. But he's gonna come up with a proposal tomorrow night
Oh, that's great to hear.
for the last of those funds. And all of that is to say,
How much that is?
hold on, and you know, give me another minute. You know, it's not just a whole lot, it's like 20 or 30,
Okay,
it's just a minute amount.
okay, yeah, that's pretty small, but. Fortunately, we do have assistance from the Community Resilience Partnership to also identify funding and potentially help us pull together proposals if needed, so. We do have continued support to find additional funding, which is great. So that means that we will, as a committee, be working to support the town. We'll be pulling together an outreach committee. I think I will probably be on it. I'm not sure if we'll have multiple members on it, but definitely potential for that.
Was that required by
The grant, yeah, the grant, and I'm happy to share again the full proposal if you want to read the details, the proposed timeline and all that, but it's fully laid out in the grant. So community action grant work will continue this year and into next year. In addition, this is jumping around a little bit in the agenda. A couple of weeks ago, the select board approved submission of a letter of intent to the Maine Natural Resources Conservation Program, which Leslie and I worked on to support a nature-based rewilding of the Pleasant Street extension, essentially removing maybe 80 to 90% of the extension, restoring it to a more natural state and planting salt marsh grasses, which is proposed to help out with decreasing coastal erosion, flooding, as well as numerous other issues. So we have just submitted a letter of intent. It's a light lift. We received or will receive funding from our community action grant to work with Knox-Lincoln County Soil and Water Conservation District to submit a full proposal to that program. If we are invited to submit a full proposal. So the updates here, which I will try to capture in the notes, are a letter of intent has been submitted. The select board would like our committee to hold 1 to 2 public listening sessions and discussions to gather input and feedback on the final Pleasant Street Extension project plan prior to submitting a grant or pulling together a grant proposal. We should hear from MNRCP, the grant program, by mid-July about whether or not we'll be invited to submit a proposal. And so I believe probably the second or third week of July, we'll need to hold that public meeting. It's a tight turnaround. I'm gonna ask Leslie to lead this and ask her to reach out to members of our committee as needed. But Leslie's really been spearheading this project. July.
Right, then, waterfront community.
Yes, invite
Sure they-
all relevant
Separate,
committees. Yeah, all relevant committees, I think Shellfish Committee as well, and. members of the-
Economic development committee.
Yeah, would you be willing to help with inviting committees to this, whole
Well,
meeting?
Evan's on the economic development.
Great.
All I know is Sue Robson.
She's gone off of it.
She's resigned,
That's what I don't.
but there, I think the select board just appointed new members to waterfront.
Yes, we do. There was some controversy over that,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
so, okay, so I think generally I just wanna say, wanna recheck, like, as a committee, have everybody pitch in, because this is gonna be a heavy lift over a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And, I was hoping we'd have more of our wider committee, I'm hoping that we can do a little bit of project management in our committee, because we're taking on a lot of projects.
Yeah,
To distribute responsibilities a little bit more broadly. I know I do this on a daily basis.
we're so happy to have you do it.
And I love doing it, and I am at my near breaking point for the amount of time that I have, and I can't take on more projects.
Good for you.
So there's a framework that I learned about last week in a staff retreat that I think is great. We can do some management. Basically, we'll assign, who's responsible, who needs to be consulted. In a project, who's the final deciding person, like the buck stops to that person, they're responsible for something moving forward and planning. I think it's basically a project management approach that just lets us identify like who's responsible for doing what. And I think it'll make our lives much easier because we only get a lot done. Okay. Cool. Great, so for myself, I will follow up with Leslie to make sure that she is ready to take the lead.
She's perfectly capable. And you shouldn't have to do any of that work, because she's already got all the sources.
Yeah, Leslie's
knows
got a lot of
Who
sources.
she wants to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's also worked a lot with a lot of other organizations
Yes,
who I think will be
yeah,
happy to help.
yeah, especially the funding.
Yeah,
I don't know how it's going with the rest of the board, select board, because it started out as a totally different project, just this little bitty thing, and now all of a sudden they're taking up Pleasant Street still. You know what I'm saying?
There goes.
Pleasant Street.
Pleasant.
Yeah. The Pleasant Street, that little jet out that was going to be rewilded, which I think is such an interesting word. And now it's not that, it's taking all of that out. For several $100,000, I'm sure. I don't know. I do not know, but returning it to its natural state, there's a question of what it actually looked like. Well, I'm going through this, just deciding, there's other murmuring among select board members for good reason. And I kind of tend to agree, we went really far with this. So far, she is extremely good at, and finding the funds, locating the people who want to contribute and getting a lot of support. So if she keeps going in that direction, I think select board's not gonna stand in the way, but it is a huge project, all of it.
Yeah, I think the scale of the project. My understanding, Leslie has been working on it for a long time, I think she. Like we laid out in the 2 meetings with select board recently of what the timeline was, and certainly. I think could have left in earlier, but I think there's so many benefits to. This being a solution to, we are already seeing more frequent flooding. And this is an extension that, by removing it, you gain a lot. But I think the feedback that I took from the recent select board meeting and the public comment is that in the public meetings, the vision needs to be very clear about what's being proposed. And also still retaining parking access for clammers, recreational users, and I spoke with, Knox Lincoln County Soil Water Conservation District this morning, and they said you can also make sure that you keep like a small, water access ramp, like for kayakers and things to get into the water easily. So I think Leslie and I will try to help as much as possible, need to
Good, I'm glad somebody's thinking about
articulate
that.
that version much more clearly. That came through loud and clear.
That's why the shellfish people need to come and talk, and the diggers need to come and talk, because they use that area. Not the shellfish people so much, but the diggers, and they wouldn't have a way to get down there.
Yeah, no, I think my understanding of the design that the project partners discussed with Leslie is really that there will still be like a really micro like pocket park there, where a couple people can park. With some grasses, but wouldn't have the full extension out into the bay anymore. That would be salt marsh, but you would gain so much from having that be restored salt marsh to more natural conditions.
Yeah.
So we hear you loud and clear, need to be clearer on what this project is proposing, before the proposal is pulled together.
There was one, this is the thing that keeps bothering me in the back of my mind, there was one comment from one of the conservation. Who said, taking that out might also create more flooding in the pond, because there's no buffer. In other words, there's
In the pond,
in the
which pond?
Bradford Cove, sorry. Bradford Cove.
Brad,
I don't know who's calling it something else, but that's what it was historically.
not Pottle Cove, but it's Bradford Cove. Okay, I forgot Pottle Cove a lot.
You know,
Pottle,
let's go with whatever they want to
Yeah.
call
Pottle
it.
Cove is on the southern side of the railroad tracks.
Okay,
I
so
don't know if
that's,
they call the part that's choked off by the railroad tracks anything or
Yeah.
not.
I would respond to that, marshes or wetlands are like sponges. And so when you add a bigger sponge, it will absorb more water.
Oh,
And, having a man-made structure, the water just runs right off of it into that cove. So my understanding is that that's also a choke point of the extension. Because the water that drains back through the one access point under the railroad tracks is choked even further by the extension, but if you remove that
but it's
extension,
like, okay, so it's a matter of flow.
it's a matter of flow in part. But if you add a marsh and a wetland, that's gonna help absorbing the water that's flowing off of the roads into the cove, like if we ever get 7 inches of rain, as we've seen with Camden, Western Maine, like increasingly frequently, that's what I'm really worried about.
Yep.
Is all of that, so. And also, if we have a coastal flood coming in, wetlands are your number one, like, solution to helping
All of that.
coastal erosion, yeah. So
Yeah.
I would say it's the opposite, it will actually help create a bigger sponge in that cove.
And I don't know the science, I don't know how that works. If, it was a conservationist who was speaking, tall guy.
Yeah, I'd love to follow up, but yeah, good question, we'll make sure we answer all those.
Thank you, yes, because that's one of the things that would be wonderful to make it clear,
Yes,
how it helps. That would be.
Yeah.
Special.
thank you, that's helpful. We'll include you on the planning for the presentation.
So I can answer a question.
Okay, so yeah, those are two pretty big projects that we're working on. I did get a little bit of input from town staff on some additional projects that they would be interested in us continuing to support on or work with them on. One is emergency operations planning. This is something we've talked about, you know, making sure there's an emergency shelter in the event of a heat event, like 2 weeks ago, it's 105. It was horribly hot and so early, and I know a lot of people, myself included, struggle through it without air conditioning.
That was the heat
Or
index.
have heat pumps?
Not yet, they're pricey. That's the plan, but I know 50% of households in Maine do not have air conditioning. And especially lower income people need somewhere cool to go.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to flag for our group that the emergency operations planning and response is something that the town would like us to keep working with them on as a committee. The second project was a culvert inventory.
I think that's a project in the commission,
I'm sorry,
but emergency management,
Town's property, town's gotta open up their building.
because they have their own, county has their own emergency management, and
And we tell the towns to open
don't
up their
wanna-
building.
you don't wanna, you wanna coordinate activities.
and they do very closely, but most, Leslie and I had a conversation actually with the county emergency managers, our county emergency manager. And you were there as well at the community center. And most of their emergency response is oriented towards cold events,
Yeah.
which makes sense. We've had more cold events than heat events. But I think just working with them a little bit more on responding to really high heat days, emergencies with that. And I think one of the big things that we've heard from the town is getting funding for backup generators is crucial, especially until we figure out, what would happen in a power outage during a high heat event. It's hard for them to switch over to heat pumps, because they take a lot of electricity. So I think continue to help them
Yeah.
identify a solution there, but this committee has also talked a lot about communications.
Town
during-
just approved new generators for this building and the community center,
Yeah, to continue,
$60,000 each. I think,
Yeah.
roughly.
yeah,
Put it on budget.
I know that the town had applied for federal funding for that. I don't know if that's coming through federal.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter because they got the approval, they approved it in the budget,
Okay,
so they're gonna be getting.
Hey, Aaron, I did not know you were here. Want to say hello?
hi, Erin. For posterity, we've been joined by Erin Kosowski, our economic development director. Thanks, Erin, for joining. We do not have a quorum, but we're holding this as more of an informational discussion, so we're not voting on it today. We're just talking about planning for this, work planning for this committee this year. Please feel free to someone, while I talk, and, talking through some of the feedback that we got from you about projects to work on, such as emergency operations planning and culvert inventory.
Sure.
Um,
Well, you
So-
saw the email you sent me about some grant opportunities. I thought
yes.
We were wanting that.
I agree, yeah, so for everybody else, I shared some grant opportunities that I learned about from the community resilience partnership with Erin and Dennis, that could potentially go towards, equipment, like HVAC upgrades.
Right.
And, hopefully generators that that aren't diesel. I wanted to touch on, I'll answer Marty's question about a culvert inventory, so culverts are essentially water passages under roads that allow drainage.
Oh,
Yeah, culverts. That allow drainage from streams or say during a rainfall event. A large number of culverts in our town and other towns are undersized for the increasing size of storms we're getting. And so there's a lot of, I know that the town in our county hazard mitigation plan has identified a number of culverts that would be
Undersized.
that are undersized,
mhm.
But I would say. Aaron, or ask Aaron if you can talk a little bit
Well, I
about
just
what
want
would
to
be
move on,
helpful.
when I was mentioning about half of it. You know, a lot of towns don't even know where their culverts are,
Oh, gosh, no.
so, but they don't, so culverts are pretty much pretty. This probably is one of them, this probably is, it's a fixed asset, so, what, you should have a list of all. And we don't. And it's useful for public works director, or road commissioner. Or town manager to have a list and a location of all these in the condition. And so we can develop plans to replace them. And so,
Mhm.
so that would be useful, so we can review the condition of they were in. And then go along with. Now, with the climate change stuff. If they were undersized, if they were perched, you know,
Mhm.
things like that. So that needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely, I have two thoughts on that, which is I know Maine DOT has been, and also Maine DEP have been prioritizing trying to provide funding.
Yeah.
To change culverts to, stream crossings, so it's sort of like a little bit more across a bridge. Mini bridge, and it provides a more natural flow of water underneath, and that's really helpful for drainage, but it's also really helpful for species who need to use.
You can't do that without capacity.
You can't,
I mean, most of them,
there's,
you know.
oh
are
yeah,
made of plastic.
yeah, so some of them would need to just be factor,
Yeah.
but some are street crossings. I know there are some federal programs, but I was gonna say, the Nature Conservancy in Maine, did a survey of culverts all over the state. And also identified like which are really at risk, which are really undersized, and which seemed okay. I think that would be a good place to start,
Sure.
is to see what data are available.
I think they looked at their website, and they only has it. But I have to double check it again.
Okay,
Better go look at that. They didn't have it. They were just like the obvious.
okay. Okay,
And then the state also does what they call. Bridge inspections. Dennis or Ted should get those annual. Bridge inspection reports.
okay,
They have divers that do that.
Ah.
And, that was useful. To know. Issue.
okay, can you tell us sort of what timeline and what, yeah, what timeline this request, this would be for this move?
Oh, I'm not making a request, I just kind of. Bring that up as an idea. concept.
Okay,
Not-
great, not a formal request, okay,
Yeah,
that's all,
don't need to do this.
okay, that's helpful. I think it's a good one,
I'd like to work with you, I mean, maybe you can't get it going this year, but. Maybe. Dennis, I can work on it, maybe get somebody like an interconnection or something.
Mhm.
to kind of Go around, GPS thing.
Mhm.
Involved in forms.
That would be great, it sounds like a great intern project, for sure. Okay. Great, so yes. Lots of projects going on, any questions about any of the projects that we've talked about so far? No questions
Did you,
about any projects we've talked about so far? Okay.
did you talk about the emergency operations and stuff?
We did talk briefly about emergency operations and, we talked about, well, a recommendation we made to the select board, you might recall. In the municipal, or part of the municipal, climate resolution was to support preparing, emergency shelters during high heat events, like extreme heat events.
I think we need to go like the next step, though, I feel like. That's just like. I feel like we need to do a more holistic approach because I think that. Nobody really knows what their role is here in town, I'm not sure that's the case entirely, but. I think someone needs to sit down with. The management director. And have a conversation, maybe there is a plan. But
There, yeah, from what I've heard from Dennis in the past is there is a county emergency operations plan and they do tabletop exercises 2 times a year.
Yeah.
On response.
we should have a town. And then, some towns have. Volunteers, like said,
Yeah,
that can help staff. Shelter, or move shelter,
mhm,
and then that emergency. So it's sort of. Like we could literally like send out a text and say, oh, we're opening up a walking shelter at the senior center. Anybody wishing to volunteer at it, go there.
yeah, I have heard of other towns where they have volunteer. Groups that like reach out to vulnerable members of the community, so the town knows exactly where. If there's somebody on a road that could get cut off, or somebody, if power goes out, like, and they have medical equipment that's, electricity, like. Volunteers can reach out and find out what their needs are, go and check in on them. That's one idea, and I think that came up at a regional planning recently too.
That's what,
The sheriff's department had one for health issues, and people had health
Okay.
problems. And whether or not that could be tied in.
Definitely.
Yeah, because we don't exactly have a clinic. Anybody talking about an emergency clinic? Yeah. All like. When there's something, that people can't breathe well, something's going on, they can call and. The ambulance, they can call the 911, and. That is our emergency response period. The people could not go to a clinic, they could not, there's no place to go in the middle of it, so. EMS team, and I just, had that wonder the other day, that. Speaking of people who. Need help when they're unable to breathe, they're unable to, whatever,
well, that's.
nobody can go,
That's ridiculous, but
yeah.
I know what you're saying though, like, and with some, like, the big general has a express care. That's kind of what you're talking about. But. I mean, I think that's something to. Hospital.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, I think generally, like, this committee has talked a lot about how communicating to members of our community about what the plan is, that there is a plan, like, for help. That seems like there's a gap there. I think that might be where we can really.
That's
Might
right.
be most helpful.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's the population's there.
Mhm.
If you, like, who's on first? But a lot of towns actually post emergency operations for that website.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so communicating with the residents, what the plan is, to find it, where they can go, emergency, just talking out loud while I take notes. Okay, yeah, I think probably this would benefit from like a dedicated discussion with like the town staff for emergency management. And as I mentioned earlier, I think for these sorts of projects for our committee, like, we have to have a discussion with the full committee, with everybody about. Who can take the lead on helping spearhead a project is good. I brought this up a little bit earlier. There's a framework called RACI, RACI, project management, and it essentially identifies like who's the responsible party for a project, who's responsible for doing the work, who's accountable, like where does the buck stop? Who needs to say, yes, go forward, or no, we need to do more work? Who in our group needs to be talked to or consulted, so they aren't responsible for doing a lot of work. But they need to be, they might know something about, that project, and they can be consulted. And then after all the work is done, who do you need to tell that it's been done, that a decision has been done, or, some task has been completed? So in our case, like town staff would be informed a lot of the time. It just really helps to show for every project we want to undertake, who has what roles, makes it very clear. And it lets you know, do I need to worry about this, or can I let other people worry about this? And I'll share again with Erin, I said this to folks earlier, my bandwidth is almost zero based on the current projects that I'm working on with this committee. And so for additional projects, we just need to get additional committee members to sort of be the responsible parties to take the lead on moving things forward. So that's something that I'll be working on a spreadsheet to track things, and nobody else has to worry about the spreadsheet. I'll worry about the spreadsheet, but it'll be helpful. As we go through these projects, I think it also makes things clear who does what, and I think that'll make all of our projects more easy. Okay, we started 10 minutes late, but we got about 15 minutes till 7. I wanted to bring up one more idea that actually Erin knows about, and I think I'd like to start this month, later this month, and that's a community climate education and talk series, or talk and discussion series. And maybe we'll back our agenda. So the idea here is that a lot of our committees, our select board, our members of our community, I think, have heard a lot about climate change, but they don't necessarily like have all of their questions, haven't had their questions answered about like, what does sea level rise have to do with anything? Or why are we worrying about getting off of fossil fuels? And what are the climate change impacts we need to worry about? How does that actually look like in our town? And so my vision with this talk series is that we will have a succession of speakers, either from within our committee, but also inviting outside speakers to talk about a bunch of different topics. And the idea is that I think later in July, I'd like to start off with a general big picture conversation about what is climate change, what's causing it, and what are some of the solutions. And so we've talked about the solutions here: more renewable energy, getting off of fossil fuels, making sure that we have prepared our residents and we're thinking about our environment. You'll note a lot of this is in our state climate action plan, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. But I think these are discussions that we did at our public climate workshops in the fall. I think we can recycle some of that information in a more friendly manner. And then Erin's been talking with the governor's energy office about having a speaker come out from the governor's energy office to talk about offshore wind. Because the state is doing a lot to work on offshore wind, it's coming to the Gulf of Maine. And we had a former working group of our committee who recommended that we bring a speaker to educate our community about, what is offshore wind, what are the implications in our area, what are the impacts to the environment, and just to kind of help generally everybody get their questions answered that they might have. I'm particularly hoping our select board will come to this. And I think inviting all of our committees as well is really, really important. Especially like waterfront committee, making sure they fully understand what sea level rise means here. Our shellfish committee, making sure that they understand what's going on with lobsters in the Gulf of Maine and red warming. I think there are a lot of topics, so I will be the responsible party on this one.
Wow, you with no bandwidth.
Me with no bandwidth, but I know roughly what
Yeah.
it is, and I will reach out for support as needed. And especially if folks have a specific idea that you're excited about, you wanna reach out to a speaker. And, I think we can also talk with some of the speakers that we got at Earth Day and maybe bring them back. Have them give them a talk again, record that, and that way it's a resource. So the idea is to have these at the community center, so they're open to everybody, but also record them. As well. That's my idea, how do we?
You know, getting the word out, getting people interested. Or, you know, worried or somehow engaged in it is the hardest part. Communication has always been. Non-existent to some extent. It reaches some people and doesn't reach others.
Right.
It would be wonderful to be able to get people who ordinarily would not attend a town meeting. I saw more people attend a town meeting 2 years ago when the community center funds were at stake. A mistake had been made in the on the voting document ballot. It was astonishing to see 300 people gathered in the same place here in this town. I don't know the last time, I don't know another time that it's happened. Maybe out of the Speedway. But then that's a whole, I thought,
For entertainment,
yeah, well. They know about that, but getting people together. Or letting them know that. Taylor Swift was going to sing a song on our stage down on the common, and, she wanted to talk to us about. Climate change. I bet you there'd be 2 or 3 people more than we've seen before.
Alright, so getting speakers people are excited
Yeah.
about would be great.
Motivating people. To go and do something, you know, that's exciting.
You know,
Ah. No,
people you reach out to. I mean, school's closed, but maybe reach out to somebody at the school. They have. So they have like a climate change club or something.
they used to.
You used to have an environmental club, but I think that I'm not sure how active it is. We have to.
They have the capability of sending emails out to everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a weekly letter or something.
yeah, I'm not even talking about that, Marty, I'm just what I'm trying to get
Yeah,
at.
that's the way to reach people.
Yeah,
But that's not what I'm talking about. Again, is get some kids that have a passion for it, they can help sponsor it, and then they can tell their buddies and. You know, to get them kind of involved.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Like that. I know, Aaron, you've also mentioned that Mincoast,
Also government.
council of governments. And maybe our regional planning commission would also be, or a county.
Yeah.
Would be interested.
Yeah, they might have speakers. Because they're being get some money. Where we still this money.
Yeah. That's great. Actually, if we could look into if there are any like local organizations that would support like food, childcare, and things, I think that would decrease the barriers to people coming.
Island Institute,
Great idea. I don't think I said this, but I was thinking monthly. Talks. Depending on speaker availability. Okay.
I'd like to try and get people. That's. Try and get people out of town, maybe. I mean, I don't know people down yet, so.
Just in the
Nearby.
area, regional,
No, what I mean is, try and get people out of town. You know,
thinking about it.
no,
Getting people from away to come here.
no, yeah, speakers, like when.
Oh, thank you, the
Oh,
speakers, I was gonna say.
speakers,
Ah,
yeah,
Yeah, so, I mean, because
Yeah.
I think if you get somebody like, somebody that.
Mhm.
Rather than just say. Joe Blow from. Fellow Street, somebody talking about. Climate change,
yeah, I think the idea is to get people no matter where they are, to talk to us.
maybe have
Who
some
are
advertising,
experts in
yeah,
that.
somebody from the university or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we would have to. For getting people and like actively work on some of these things. It's great, as Cassidy is not a realist here, so. Okay, thank you for the support for this idea, yeah, I think generally it's like getting people together to talk and learn, helpful. I have other ideas that I'm waiting on input from the town on, but I will share. Mostly just like socially getting together, people who are interested in that. But that might be something that I do about today this week. Okay. I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. Are there any other updates or items you would like to share?
Want to share any updates? Whatever you choose.
Oh, so I had a meeting with, they call it Easter, it's that, main, well, you get that, it's the,
I know, I get very weird.
it's student coverage energy office, it's,
Community resilience partnership. Not the community resilience partnership.
no, it's,
Easter.
Easter, it's,
I know, it's community in there somewhere.
How's the acronym spelled?
MECERP.
Community Energy Redevelopment Program?
Yeah, that's it. So I met with them today and, I think we're like,
Oh, that's great.
and, we. I originally had proposed, like, Mason Station, old, Ferry Road property, and we narrowed the scope down to Old Ferry Road and to Mason Station. We talked a little bit about, obviously the new coverage proposal, that, part of that, for the energy and tech part. But we talked about, other possibilities there too. And they seem excited about the project, and then we also talked a lot about this distinction. What's going on there, and one of the neat things that this group, if it gets selected, they're gonna help us with public engagement. They're gonna help us with, site planning. And, market studies, and things like that, that will help us decide what locations best for. What is most suitable at each location, and I think that would be helpful for us. And help us get money for infrastructure and things like that. So. I think that.
It's not even if the town owned. Made the station.
A little over 30 acres, probably closer to 40.
That's private, the station itself.
Yeah, that's about 8 acres there. There's CMP owns some land over there too. That is the first one. Our property is going about 30 acres.
It's good to know. I think one thing we could do to be helpful with, like, if the town selected is to also, look at. Which of these areas is, at risk of flooding from sea level rise, because I know these parts of the station are. Very Road, I believe also was like projected to be part of it, some water, some access. A little bit.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking about when the folder inventory is we just upgraded one of the roads, like their culverts, but there's another one, because I was looking at the. Was it hurricane route?
Yeah.
One of the other culverts is showing that. The whole railroad. Washed away everything.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's stunning how long the period of golf took.
Yeah, so we should get lit, so the next one.
It's just absolutely stunning.
Thanks for that update, that's really exciting. Okay, so I want to turn to our next meeting agenda. We'll have to, well, the next scheduled meeting is the 4th Wednesday in July. End of July. I anticipate we might need to have just a planning meeting for the public engagement on MNRCP. Yeah, but in terms of items, we'll probably want to have a community action grant update at that time. And on RCP as well. We'll keep our checking in on our progress. Absolutely, checking in on our projects and shared responsibilities. I'm also gonna propose just review what roles and like people volunteered for on the committee, which was done about a year ago. We don't have a note taker. I'm currently the note taker. This is not a good situation because I have the time. So I think just figuring out the plan that works best for making sure all our responsibilities are covered. And then I believe, I think that is it for the time being. Any other agenda items for next meeting people wanna put on right now? Okay, if anything comes up during next month, please reach out, and look forward to you'll hear from me and, well, actually Leslie on scheduling that kind of meeting for everyone. Thanks all, I will stop recording now.